Welcome into the Lucas and Lucas podcast. Lucas, Frankel, Mike Lucas here on a Tuesday, April 11th, 2023. The Dallas Mavericks are officially out of the playoffs. Just over 2 months ago, on February 6th of this year, the Nets traded away Kyrie Irving and the Dallas Mavericks. Mike, what would you have said if I had told you on that very day that the Dallas Mavericks would be out of the playoffs and the Nets would be in the playoffs? Your response would have been what?
I would have said, I believe you're half right, because I did think I would have said, no, I didn't think the Mavericks would fall out of the playoffs. I thought the Nets would stay in the playoffs. So I think the Nets recouped a lot of assets from their trades, and Sean Marks deserves his kudos. Maybe we do that another day, Frank. But when you look at what happened to the Mavericks, when you have Luka Doncic, a top 5 player in the NBA, based on any metric you want to do, the guy is an unbelievable talent, can score, he plays no defense, and he does a lot of things that may not be the most attractive thing to watch visually because he complains about every call, but whatever. The dude's an unbelievable talent. He single-handedly took the Mavs to the Western Conference Finals last year. And then the Mavs went, in my opinion, too far all in with what they currently had, not realizing that last year was a flash-in-the-pan fluke of how the Western Conference panned out. Bring Kyrie into the equation. They trade away their backup point guard, who we saw with Jalen Brunson, had established a nice role alongside Luka, which is not easy to do. They also traded away Finney Smith, their best 3-and-D defender, and guess what? They collapsed. I don't think it's all Kyrie's fault, but if you had told me on February 6th that the Mavs wouldn't have made the playoffs, I would have said, you're out of your damn mind, especially when 10 teams in each conference make it, including the play-in. Now, that's absurd. They're not part of that 10-team Western Conference field.
So I guess, and you said it's not Kyrie's fault. So I guess who do you blame? Whose fault is it?
I think, I'm not saying Kyrie's completely without fault here, but they traded away their only wing defender. Since having Kyrie, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. I apologize. I believe they're the worst defensive team in basketball since February 6th. Bill Simmons said on his podcast last week, if you don't score 130 points on Dallas, you're a terrible offensive basketball team. That's how bad they are. Kyrie, not a good defender. Luka put zero effort out on defense. Christian Wood, their center, does not play defense. Finney Smith was the only guy in that team that even attempted to play defense. You lose him. And in today's day and age, especially when everyone's making shots and scoring at, rates, unprecedented rates, you need to have some semblance of defense, someone to at least make the other team work a tiny bit more than average or make every shot. And we saw the games that the Mavericks have won. Luka had 35, Kyrie had 37, and they'd have another guy, Christian Wood, Tim Hardaway Jr., someone else have to score 30, and they have to win 140 to 130, and that's just not sustainable in today's day and age of basketball. It's not.
That sounds like the sort of theme any team Kyrie has been on the last however many years is when he's on the court, how does your defense look? That was the biggest question with the Kyrie, KD, Harden team. That was the big question going into this season. Now it was the question and the concern with Dallas. It's a constant theme in terms of Kyrie Irving defense. Can they play defense? And the answer seemingly every single time is no, they can't play any defense because guess what? Kyrie is too small and not just straight up not a good defender. But to me, this is, I don't know. You keep saying that teams keep getting blindsided by the talent, but like there comes a point with players where you've just seen enough. That point has had to have come here for Kyrie Irving. How many more teams does he have to ruin before teams finally realize you shouldn't bring him on? How many more teams is it going to be, Mike?
Someone's going to do it. I said this on our show the other day, Frank. He is the Odell Beckham Jr. of the NBA.
That's not fair. Odell, hang on. That is not.
You didn't hear me where I'm going.
It's just a horrible comparison.
The way NFL players talk about Odell Beckham Jr. is completely different than the way we as media members and fans view Odell Beckham Jr. 2 NFL players in circles. You had guys tweeting out yesterday from all across the NFL. OBJ and Lamar Jackson. Oh my God, that's an unstoppable duo. When we look at Odell Beckham Jr., do you think he's still an elite wide receiver in the NFL?
He hasn't played in a long time, but
exactly. But even when he was with the Rams, his last 3 years in the Browns, was not an elite wide receiver. He was not the same player we saw early in his New York career when he was on a Hall of Fame trajectory after 3 seasons. Kyrie Irving, to us, the outside world, is an absolute menace and a headache. The negatives significantly outweigh the positives from our perspective on what Kyrie Irving does. But you ask anyone who's ever played with Kyrie, you ask anyone who's in the NBA, you ask guys even this year, Kevin Durant, who he had a public breakup with, has nothing but glowing things to say about Kyrie Irving. They are not the same as far as sabotaging team. They are not the same headache. Different stories in that sense, but they are very similar in the way that people inside their respective sport look at them and how drastically different that is than how people outside of that circular bubble of the players view them, the fans, the media. That is similar between those two. And whether it's right or wrong, we can debate. But how we look at Odell Beckham Jr. and how we look at Kyrie Irving is drastically different than how NFL players and NBA players look at those two.
I understand your point in terms of how like players in the league view them versus like how the media views them, but I just don't think it's fair to compare any player ever to Kyrie. I just can't think of any player who brings along the type of baggage that Kyrie has, with the number one instance, an example being the whole vaccine thing. Like, with a chance to win the championship, you just decide, no, I'm just not going to play. Like, that to me is just, that crossed a line that I don't think we will ever see again in our life, and like in our lifetime. Like, a player of that caliber just being like, nah, I'm going to sabotage a whole season for this team that can win a championship because of something like, I just don't think we'll ever see something like that ever again. And
but on a macro or micro scale, on a much smaller level, you have, Rudy Gobert punching Kyle Anderson and getting himself.
That wasn't him. That's
whatever it was.
That wasn't Draymond Green and Jordan Poole. That was not that. That is different.
Well then Draymond Green and Jordan Poole, isn't that on the same level of sabotaging team chemistry? Before the start of the season.
I know it's hard. It's
on a championship caliber team.
It's hard to say because I was never in the locker. Like, the Warriors could still win the championship, and they could still win more championships. And Draymond Green, you could argue, is over the hill as a player, but that did not come to the level of what Kyrie did. Stop trying to make players out there comparable to Kyrie, because it's just not. I'm not going to accept it. No matter how hard you try, I'm just not going to accept it. That being said, the Dallas Mavericks did still have a chance to get a spot in the playoffs here down the stretch, and they decided to rest Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic and miss the playoffs. And there have been blatant displays of tanking over the course of however many years in the NBA, whether you want to point to the 70s. Most blatantly, the 76ers. This year, the Blazers shut down Lillard about 2 weeks ago to improve their draft rankings and draft stock. So you see tanking across the league, but this was, I think, one of the first instances I can remember where a team had the playoffs basically laid out in front of them. Here, you want a spot in the playoffs? Take it. And they're like, no, actually, no, we don't want to be in the playoffs. We're going to go the other way. And with the whole new format of the 10 teams, this was supposed to deter teams from going in this direction. But the Mavericks were they completely turned on a dime and went the other way. I thought this was disgraceful, pathetic, and it's hard to legislate against, because we have seen instances of tanking in the past. So you can't single them out as being the sole people who, just didn't follow the integrity of the game, which is unfortunate. But if I am Adam Silver, then I am penalizing them to the fullest extent of the law because of the circumstances surrounding where they had a golden opportunity to make the playoffs and they chose to just go the other way.
Yeah, but they did the same thing these other teams are doing for a whole season. At least they put out a halfway decent product for the majority of it. And when you look at the Mavericks, and this is the issue with the NBA, and this year is even a little different. There are more teams this year that have a legitimate shot to win the NBA championship than most. I think realistically there are 7 teams in the NBA that can win a championship this year. 4 in the West, 3 in the East. That's it. And for those other 23 teams, and for the Mavericks in this case, they're in cap hell.
And who are the 4 in the West? Just out of curiosity.
But I think Phoenix.
Okay.
I do think Denver.
Okay.
I think Golden State.
Okay.
And if the Lakers get hot, I think the Lakers can do it.
So the Grizzlies in your mind are out.
No chance.
No chance.
No chance. Zero.
Because of Ja?
But I just don't think they're that good. Steven Adams isn't playing. They've been a much better team. He's out for the whole postseason. Steven Adams has somehow been their most important player. When he doesn't play, they're not a very good basketball team. or not at the level of a 2 seed in the West.
Yeah,
And I think they're going to lose to the Lakers in the first round. So
and the Kings are the most fraudulent team in
3 seed ever.
in
Yeah.
the playoffs.
And in the East, I think the top 3 seeds in the East could all win it if things fell right. So there are 7 teams. I don't typically think there are 7 teams. It's usually closer to 5 teams that can actually win it all. So if you're in that other 23 to 25 team range, if you're the Mavericks who are in cap hell, have traded first round picks, you're very limited assets, you're not a free agent destination anyway, and you have a chance to keep a top 10 pick as opposed to being the 10 seed in a play-in tournament when you know you have no chance to win, like it makes all the sense in the world. And I love how the NBA is quote unquote investigating what the Mavericks did. You don't got to investigate. You can ask any random Joe Schmo on the street. It's so easy to see what they did, and it makes perfect sense. It would frustrate me as a fan, and I do think it goes against the integrity of the NBA and the game, but let's not pretend it wasn't hands down, unequivocally the smart basketball move for the future of this franchise, who needs to find pieces to put next to Luka, whether it's Kyrie or not. Luka needs a running mate. Luka needs guys that are talented to put around him to help Luka be able to carry this team to a championship. And you don't do that when you give away your lottery pick to the Knicks based on a bad trade for Kristaps Porzingis a few years ago. So, yeah, it's against the integrity of the NBA, but I would do it, and I get why they did it.
Oh, yeah, I get it too. It's just they had it, like I said, laid out in front of them, and they just chose not to take it.
Yeah.
The whole Luka thing, I just don't see the path, given the amount of assets they have and who they have, and obviously re-signing Kyrie is probably like as we've sort of laid out here is sort of their only path to take just because of the situation they're in. But like the Mavericks aren't going to be like that much better next year. How are they going to be like that much better?
You have to hope that you hit with this 10th pick, and that's a crapshoot.
And it's very rare to see, like, obviously they're like Giannis's, but those take like 4 or 5 years to like truly develop. But like if they get like the 10th pick, like that's not going to be a franchise altering player. That's just going to be a nice piece potentially for a couple of years before they start blossoming into the player that, you know, they may or may not become. So I just don't see the path for Dallas here. And, you know, Luka's been saying all the right things. I'm happy here. I want to stay here. Obviously money's not going to be an issue because he's going to get whatever money he wants. But at some point he's going to be like, how am I going to win here? And I don't see the path for Dallas given where things stand in the West with Denver and Jokic being so young. And, you know, LeBron and the Lakers seemingly, you know, going, you know, building momentum. The Grizzlies, obviously, this year looks like it may not pan out the way they want to, but they still got extremely talented young core. And then obviously you got the Suns with KD, who may never lose a game as long as he's playing. So, like, I just don't see I don't see the path at all for Dallas here with Luka being competitive. I just don't.
No, and they're going to need a rehaul. And I'm going to read you the last 20 10th overall picks in the draft, going back to the year 2002. You ready? Real quick, we'll go through real fast. Joe Johnson.
Nice player.
Well, we'll go back to 98. This is as far as this goes to 98. Paul Pierce was the 10th pick in 98. Jason Terry, the 10th pick in 99. Keon Dooley in 2000. Joe Johnson in 2001. Karan Butler in 2002. Jarvis Hayes, Luke Jackson, nobodies. Andrew Bynum in 2005. Mohamed Sine, nobody. Spencer Hawes, nobody. Brooke Lopez, good player, still playing. Brandon Jennings, Paul George, Jimmer Fredette, Austin Rivers, CJ McCollum, Elfrid Payton, Justice Winslow, Thon Maker, Zach Collins, Mikal Bridges, Cam Reddish, Jalen Smith, Zaire Williams, and Johnny Davis. So there's a couple of hits in there that you hope, you know, you could finagle out of this draft and pair with Luka long term, but there's a lot more misses than hits on that list. But if you're not at least taking a guy at 10 and you're giving that pick away, you get literally no assets out of this season. So I get it, but it does suck. I'm with you. It sucks.
By the way, I completely forgot. I saw this on Instagram today. I completely forgot that the Sixers drafted Mikal Bridges and then traded him for Zaire Williams. And I don't even know where
Zaire Smith, yeah. But yeah.
Or Zaire Smith. Is Zaire Smith still in the league?
No, he's not even on the G League team.
Zaire Smith.
He was a Texas Tech guy.
So this guy, Zaire Smith, is 23 years old, and his last season with the Delaware Blue Coats was 19. I mean, the Sixers traded Mikal Bridges for Zaire Smith. That is horrendous. Like, how is that not talked about as a horrendous trade?
Yep.
I mean, my God, horrible, absolutely disgraceful. If you're, I believe that was the regime before Daryl Morey, but my God, I completely forgot about that. Anyway. Back to the Phoenix Suns. Like I said, 8-0 with Kevin Durant. I also saw on Instagram that KD, even though he played like 20 games this season, finished with the first ever 55, 40, 90 season in the history of the league.
He's so good. I miss him.
Are they? I know they're the clear team to beat in the West. What is your level of confidence that KD, Chris Paul can stay healthy for the next 2 months straight and get this thing done?
I don't know. I don't feel good about it. I mean,
are you rooting for them?
Yeah. Honestly, no, I'm rooting for Giannis. I want the best. Any team's gonna win.
You're rooting for Giannis. You're legitimately rooting for Giannis. Why?
Well, I mean, I'm rooting for the Nets, obviously.
You're rooting for the Nets. Don't waste your time because they're going to get swept. So why?
I know. Well, of the teams that I mentioned, the 7 teams that I think can win a championship, I would like to see Giannis win a second one.
So the way I sort of view these things is like, who of the teams are in this that do I have the least amount of like?
I just like Giannis. Like I read his book. He comes from literally nothing. His whole story is amazing. I'm rooting for Giannis, and I would root for the Sixers for Eli, but I can't root for James Harden. Like I refuse to root for James Harden.
It is refreshing to know that the Sixers and the Celtics are probably going to play in round 2, and one of those teams is going to be eliminated before the Eastern Conference Finals. That makes me legitimately happy. The Mavericks, as we've talked about, that potential disaster is now out of our way. I really have. As long as the Suns don't win the championship here, as long as the Suns, Celtics, or Sixers don't win the championship, then I'm good. And we know it's either going to be, we know that either the Celtics or the Sixers aren't going to because they're going to play to each other in round 2. So it's either going to be the Suns again. It's going to be freaking Suns Celtics finals. I'm like,
no, for you it's gonna be Suns Sixers. You have to watch Harden versus Chris Paul and Durant.
Oh my God, Harden versus Durant, the championship would be that would be a complete nightmare.
And Kyrie's gonna sit courtside for that. Which is gonna drive you.
Kyrie will be in the building wearing one of those shirts like down the middle,
the split jerseys.
Half Kyrie, half Harden, half Durant. It'll be a disaster. And they'll interview him and he'll be like, "Yeah, I love these teams." And then 2 days later, he'll sign with the Suns. Kyrie's gonna be on the Suns next year, by the way. That's my bold prediction. I don't see how he like just goes back to the Mavericks like nothing bad happened this past season. That would just be
it'll be weird.
The Lakers, T-Wolves tonight. I think you sort of laid it out before. I think the Lakers will beat the Grizzlies in round 1, assuming the Lakers can beat the Timberwolves tonight. The Timberwolves are better without Rudy Gobert. That is an indisputable take. And then I really want to see the Lakers beat the Grizzlies in round 1 and then make a little push of this thing.
Yeah, I do too. Listen, for better or worse, when it comes to playoff basketball, which we talked on the show. I don't know if you guys have done this on your show, Frank, but like the difference in the regular season and playoffs and basketball is different. It's a bigger gap than any other sport in the world. It's 2 different sports, especially in today's day and age of the fast-paced run and gun shoot threes. Like there's no bigger difference in sports. And what playoff basketball plays right into what the Lakers do better than most teams, which is slow the pace, rebound the basketball, and have 2 or 3 guys who can get you a bucket no matter who's guarding them, no matter what the shot clock is. And that's LeBron, that is Anthony Davis, and throw in D'Angelo Russell if they have to, if he gets iced on a guy. Russell has his own set of issues and he drives me crazy in certain situations, but the dude, to his credit, can get buckets. And they got guys since the deadline. Jared Vanderbilt, who plays defense and rebounds. They got Austin Reeves, who's playing out of his mind. They have put together a nice little roster here in LA that not only, I know they're in the playing game, so try not to get too excited, but with a healthy LeBron and a healthy Davis, they will never be completely outmatched talent-wise. And I think playoff basketball fits them more stylistically in a way that benefits and accentuates what they do than some of these other teams. So are they the most talented team in the West? No. Do I have as much confidence in them as I have in almost anybody else outside of Phoenix, assuming Phoenix can stay healthy? I think I do.
So it looks like, if I'm looking at this bracket correctly, we could get Lakers Warriors round 2, and then Lakers Suns Western Conference Finals.
Yep, that
would be freaking epic.
Yeah,
absolutely epic. Long way to go. Obviously, Lakers might lose tonight, and that'll be
off. But think how sweet it would be if we got 2 months essentially of healthy LeBron, healthy Davis, healthy Durant, healthy Booker, healthy Paul.
If I gave you the odds of that, what would you set the odds at? 10-1?
Yeah, 10-1 was the first number that came to my head.
It's probably more like 20-1. Just to think that all those guys who were never healthy are just gonna
Stay healthy. Yeah.
too
I mean, I
much.
get terrified anytime most of those guys fall. I get scared. Like legit. Like Davis falls, I assume he's hurt. Durant falls, I assume he's hurt. Chris Paul dies on a screen, I assume he's dead. Like
Chris Paul, I mean, to think of Chris Paul's hamstring in the last year, 2 months is, I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on to the National Football League. It seemed like all the chips were aligning here for Odell Beckham Jr. to sign with the Jets. The Ravens swooped in out of nowhere and got him. My first thought was it was kind of a crazy development of events here because now it looks like Lamar Jackson's going nowhere, and it seemed like Aaron Rodgers really wanted Odell Beckham, and I guess I started getting concerned from a Jets perspective because I was like, oh my God, did Odell Beckham get hint that Rodgers isn't coming anymore? So he pivoted to Lamar. But then I heard that he gave the Jets an opportunity to match what the Ravens were offering and did not. So that sort of calmed my nerves a little bit. But very interesting dynamics here with this whole Odell Beckham situation because now it seems that Lamar's going nowhere. And hopefully, I mean, I don't know what the hell is going on with Aaron Rodgers, but it still makes me a little unnerved that he's still not a Jet. The guy he wanted, Odell Beckham, is not a Jet. And the clock is ticking.
Yeah, your guy, CBS Sports HQ insider Pete Prisco was on our show today and said he heard that Lamar was offered the second most money and the second most guaranteed money ever, only behind Deshaun Watson. And he turned it down and said, I'm better than Deshaun Watson. I want a bigger contract.
Well, yeah, he's better than Deshaun.
And I'm just saying, and that's what Pete said. And, Pete told us, who's going to give it to him? Who? And he's like, listen, at this point, I would expect him to be back in Baltimore because I don't know if there's a suitor willing to go to that level of financial stability in terms of guaranteed money and overall money for a guy who's missed 11 games the last 2 years and frankly has not been as good as he was during his MVP season since then. I mean, he's had 3 seasons in a row now where he has not been at that same level where he took the league by storm in his sophomore season and won MVP. So I think the Ravens had to bring in a receiver no matter who their quarterback was. I mean, if you looked at their receiver core,
horrendous.
Nelson Aguilar was literally their wide receiver 1, which is horrendous. As we mentioned earlier with Kyrie and Odell, players love Odell. Is he still that same player he was with the Giants? No. I mean, at least I don't think so. He's torn his ACL twice now. He just hasn't been there. Maybe he gets back to it. I hope he does. But, I have 2% confidence that he is that same caliber of player at this stage of his career. I think he's more of a wide receiver 2 or 3. Like, he's a wide receiver 2, but he's closer to 3 than he is to 1. And at least Lamar has an option now. At least they have a guy in his camp saying, hey, come back. Let's run this up together in Baltimore. But it's a weird situation, man. I'm more curious from your take. This whole Rodgers thing, as it plays out, when do you just give up? Is there a point where you can give up on Rodgers? Or is he your only?
I mean, we still have, 3 months till training camp. So, there's still the time. So, I'm not – if we get, past the draft, I do believe that before – because the whole thing here is the Packers are assuming they're holding out for a draft pick. So, once we get to, a couple days before the draft or once the draft is over and, we've heard nothing, then I'm going to be like, all right, something's clearly going on here that doesn't make any sense. But I'm not going to start truly being. I'm operating under the mindset, and I have been for a while here, that I don't think I'm just operating under the assumption he's not coming. That's where I stand on the situation. I obviously believe that he will be a Jet, but we'll see for real. Things will get real if he's not traded by the end of the draft. If the draft concludes and we've heard nothing, then I'll be like, then Jets fans not named me should be very, very scared because that becomes a situation that you do not want to go down. So you better hope that before the draft, I believe it's April 29th or somewhere around that range.
27th is the first day.
Yeah, April 27th, that this gets done before then. Otherwise, this get really, really ugly. The Tampa Bay Rays are 10-0.
Yep, they're really good. They're really good.
They are the greatest team ever assembled. How many players can you name on the Rays?
Low.
Randy that's actually not. That's not how you pronounce it. But okay, I'll get that's one.
Lowe. How do you pronounce it?
It's Nathaniel Lowe on the Rangers, Brandon Lau on the Rays.
Oh, Lau. Well, he hit a home run
Yeah,
yesterday.
game-winning home run against the Red Sox. Okay, Brandon Lau's one. Let's see that.
My man Randy Arozarena,
Okay, too.
my guy. Franco, the shortstop.
What's his
Wander
first
Franco.
name?
Wander.
Okay,
I
3.
covered him back with the Danville Rays in the Appy League.
Okay, that's
Number one
3.
overall prospect in baseball. Uh, Kevin Cash, the manager. I mean, they got the pitching's a little easier. They got Glass now and some other guys who are good. Listen, it's a pretty unknown. Is it He-Man Choi still there?
No, G-Man Choi.
G-Man Choi. Yeah, that honestly might be it. So
Yeah, I mean they got Yandy Diaz, Manuel Margot, Shane McClanahan, this guy named Jeffrey Springs, who I hadn't heard about. I mean, they got all these guys that no one's ever heard of, and they are 10-0. They've outscored their opponents by 58 runs so far. They're the first team since the 1987 Brewers to start a season off 10-0. They already have a 4-game lead for first place in the AL East, at least.
uncatchable. Just give me a shot already.
It's not like they have like they've kept this core and it's just developed. They lose guys or they trade guys and they replay, and their payroll is only like $78 million. Like Judge,
they're the best organization in sports. Legitimately the best organization in sports.
It is insane what the hell they're doing. It is extremely frustrating. They're just that annoying little fruit fly that's just they're always flying around. You think you like killed all of them, and then the next day there's like 3 times the amount. They don't go away no matter what happens. They are extremely frustrating to have in the division. They have the worst stadium in sports. I hate playing in that stupid indoor stadium. It is ugly. It is an eyesore. But every year, no matter who's on the team, no matter how many pitchers they lose in free agency or the offseason, here they are playing incredible baseball. The World Series odds open at 2,500. Last night, they were at plus 1,300. Let me just see if they actually shifted in the last 24 hours here. World Series winner. So the Rays are still plus 1,300. So you'd like to think that they'll come back to reality here at some point, or maybe they'll set the wins record. Who knows? Either way, extremely frustrating.
It will just the Yankees have such a high payroll. They have all these guys who you expect to be good, and Rizzo and Torres and Stanton and Judge and LeMahieu and literally everyone on the roster. Then all of a sudden you get a team with legitimate nobodies. And I mean, Frank, like I know you know baseball as well as anybody. Like, how many guys can you legitimately name on the Rays before you looked that up the other day?
I mean, I actually forget who their catcher is, but like I said, Yandy Diaz, Manuel Margot, Wander Franco, Brandon Lau, Tyler Glasnow, Shane McClanahan, Jeffrey Springs. That's the extent of it. I mean, the Yankees haven't played the Rays this year, so I haven't like truly like sat down and watched the whole Rays game. And I know there's always a lot of turnover with them, but
that's my point. They even for the diehard baseball fan like you can't name more than half their team. You got half essentially, but they have these guys and it's a new bunch of no-name guys every year, which is the frustrating part.
Yeah.
Like where do the Yankees do to just come up and all of a sudden they're studs, and Volpe has been,
terrible
to start the season.
Complete debacle, hitting 129. He looks overmatched. I know he had a triple against the Orioles over the weekend, but man, it's been a very, very extremely rough go of it here for Anthony Volpe. Obviously he's young and he'll get it turned around here at some point, but man, extremely rough go of it. But the Yankees are 6-4 and they're 0-2 in Clark Schmidt pitches, and I believe they're 0-2 in Domingo Germán pitches. When they get like a guy on the mound who the players behind them can like take a deep breath a little bit, like Cole or Johnny Brito's been absolutely sensational so far. And then the third starter,
come on.
No, Germán's been terrible.
No, I say come on. You should know this. Germán pitched last night.
Yeah, the Yankees' third starter is Nestor Cortez. Yeah, who's been really solid in their early going. So when Nestor, Brito, or Cole pitches, they play really solid baseball. But the game on Monday night was extremely frustrating. I knew as soon as they only got out of the first inning with 2 runs, I knew the game was over. Bieber found his groove, and
he's good.
They couldn't get the runner in with third and less than 2 outs with Glaber, and the 8th was disgraceful.
They had third and no outs for
in
the lineup.
Yeah.
They lost the Guardians yesterday. The Guardians 1-7 hitters had 0 hits.
Wow, I didn't
Think
know.
about that. They lost the game where their 1-7 hitters had 0 hits.
I mean, I don't know the history behind that or whatnot, but yeah, that sounds pretty wild. So the Yankees play the Twins starting on Thursday. I know Joey Gallo already has some side tightness, but I'm really looking forward to seeing Joey Gallo in the Bronx on Friday.
What are his numbers this year, real quick? Decent.
So he got off to an extremely hot start. So he's actually hitting 278, which is amazing. I mean, that's over 100 points higher than he hit last year. And with 3 homers and 7 RBIs, he's played in 7 games. So he's tearing the cover off the ball. It's not shocking that his average is higher, because when you look at players who are going to benefit from the shift being banned, number 1 on that list was Joey Gallo.
Yeah.
He got completely just his whole offensive game was just taken away by the shift. Couldn't do anything unless 1 out of 10 times he hit the ball over everyone and hit it out of the park, which he's still capable of doing. But he was the guy, in my opinion, who is the most benefited from the shift not being there. I think he'll probably hit probably in the 240s this year, which is, a massive improvement than he did with the Yankees. But I hope that he plays left field at the Yankee Stadium, because I'll be sitting right there and I could just tell him how he couldn't handle being in New York, and do you remember me from Cleveland? And see what
I was gonna ask you. You gotta put that sound on loop and just play it over and over.
Yeah, I always wondered if I asked Miguel Andujar or asked Ryan Ruocco, who was calling the game, if they remember that, because you were there with me. It was so quiet.
You could hear it on the broadcast.
Oh crap! It was so. I put up Joey Gallo stats in the automatic ad play on ESPN. Anyway, it was so quiet in that stadium in that moment.
You could literally hear it on the broadcast.
The whole stadium heard me.
Yeah, no, it's true.
I just hope that I think he's been playing first base and right field, so my hopes aren't very high unless I skedaddle over to the other side of the stadium and let him know my thoughts. But that's where things stand. By the way,
can't wait for the update.
Nets Sixers. Did the Sixers win 4, 5, or 6 games?
I think it goes 5. I think the Nets get 1. The Sixers have a propensity, especially with Harden and Embiid, just to take nights off. So I think the Nets get 1, but it's a bad matchup for the Nets. I don't foresee them winning more than a game. 2 tops, but it won't be a close 2, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not getting emotionally invested in this series at all. There's just no point. If Ben Simmons was healthy, this would be this would be like an ABC primetime series. If Ben Simmons was healthy and playing basketball, the media would absolutely just
go crazy. And I can't. Speaking of going crazy, I cannot wait. Cleveland's going to be absolutely electric this weekend with the Knicks in town and the whole Donovan Mitchell saga with the Knicks. I think it's the only series that I can remember where both teams will look at losing to the other as a disappointment. Cavs fans are if we don't beat the Knicks, this season's a total disappointment.
Yeah, but the Knicks
don't. Fans are looking at the Cavs feeling the same way.
No, the Knicks don't have Randall. Brunson's been hurt. The Cavs should roll them in 5 or 6 easy.
They should. Yeah, well,
the Cavs are a wagon with Garland, with Mobley, who's going to win Defensive Player of the Year, and obviously
which is crazy, by the way. He would not get my vote. Just throwing it out there.
All right, that will do it for this edition of Lucas Lucas Podcast. Most likely no show next week. Mike will be on the road, and then we'll back the following week to talk about how the NFL draft, which will be right around the corner. Yep. See you all then. Maybe Aaron Rodgers will be a Jet by then, but probably not.
Peace.